Okay, part three. I don't know if I'm in the shot or not. Part three is about appropriate response to the situation. So I've already addressed the paint. I've already shown you the wheels and tires and wheel well. If you want to cut to the chase and not drag out a hose and use a bunch of water. But sometimes these things, as in your wheel and tire and wheel well, get so dirty you just got to use some water. Okay, so this is what I do. If I'm using water and I've decided that that's the most appropriate response based on how dirty my wheels and tires are, this will be the very first thing I do, is I will spray the wheel wells with degreaser. And for wheel wells and engines, I use super degreaser cut 4-to-1. 1 part concentrate, 4 parts water. That's how it works. Okay, so I do this. If your wheel wells are overly dirty, you have one of these cool brushes. It's a wheel well brush. I can get up in here and scrub it. Mine are not coated with mud or a bunch of gunk other than dressing and superficial dirt. So all I have to do is just spray it. Like so. Okay. Now if I'm working in really hot weather, I will make sure, and this is with another microfiber, if I get any water, you'll notice I was careful to keep water off the paint. If I do, I immediately wipe it up because I don't want it to water spot because I'm using regular tap water. Okay, so the wheel well is done. Now I move on to, actually, before I do that, I prefer the wheel brightener used on a dry wheel that's dirty. In other words, if I was to do this tire first, the wheel would get wet, and now the wheel brightener, the chemical in it, is not able to react to the brake dust. And it does a wonderful job at reacting to brake dust. So I want to do the wheel first at this point. And this is my wheel brush. It's very durable. Once again, you can find it on my website. You just break up, no pun intended, you just break up the dirt and brake dust, like so. If you have lug nuts that are exposed, I use this as my lug nut brush because the other ones that are made for lug nuts, I've not found one that really holds up worth a darn. So I will just cram this into the lugs. Obviously this is covered, but I can cram it into. This wheel's meant to look like a 3-piece wheel. It's really not. It's a nice wheel. It's got some, great chrome on it, but it's not a true 3-piece wheel. So I do that. Bam, the wheel's done. I check the outside, make sure there's no water spots. If there is, I mop it up very quickly because I don't want it to spot up, because basically I'm always working in the sun. Not just because I have to, but I want to because I'm just a sun guy. Anyhow, next step, I'm going to take my super degreaser. I'm going to saturate it pretty heavily because I want to make sure I remove that layer of dressing that I put on the last time I did this. And I want to make sure I break it up from all the details of the tire tread and the sidewall. Now I hose it off. And I double check my results. And since I got some water on the paint, I'm going to mop that up very quickly because this is the only part I'm using water on, is right here. Now this is where I get my leaf blower and I blow it dry. I'm not going to inflict that noise on you, so I'm going to cut it and come back. Okay, I've blown it off. Now, if you look closely, which you probably will not be able to see in the video, is there is some residual water spots. This, it's already clean. I use the wheel brightener. So the brake dust, the dirt is gone. I blew it with the leaf blower because I don't want, if I were just to wipe this up, I think that's an obvious. If I were just to wipe this up and not blow it with the leaf blower, guess what happens? Water will come out of here and it'll make a mess of my wheel. So I'm just going to check right now because I don't want any big water spots hanging out. And as I teach my employees or my kids, is each step is meant to be its own individual step with its own appropriate tools. So for example, when it's time, which now it is time, or it's if I wanted to, I'm not there because I would be going in the wrong order. But like, for example, what I mean is that if I were to leave like trace water spots there and now I'm going to come back with my window cleaner, now I'm not just finishing the wheel, now I've got it, now I'm trying to deal with the water spots and finish the wheel. Okay, that's improper technique. I want to make sure that I take it in the proper order and finish it to the proper and appropriate end result based on the step. So in other words, I don't want to remove the water spots with my final rag because I would have to use too much window cleaner in order to try to remove those big water spots. So by the time I got to the fourth wheel, my rag would probably be too saturated than what would be optimum. So you need to take each step and complete it based on your end goal and the individual process or task that you're accomplishing. Right now it's the wheel. It was dirty. I sprayed it with the wheel brightener. I agitated, hosed it off, blew it off. So that's the proper order and sequence. Now I'm going to wipe off the big, if there's any big spots left over, I'm going to wipe it with the microfiber. Then I can finish it with a microfiber and some window cleaner, light use of window cleaner. Anyhow, so at this point, this is where I would take notice it says wheel wells on here. They do not make, Meguiar's does not make a bottle labeled wheel wells. But I label my stuff so when someone's working with me, they know what they're reaching for. This is hyper dressing diluted down 4:1. It's a lot thinner because it doesn't need to be thick. All I want to do is dress the inside of the wheel well and make it black and shiny. Now at first you'll still see some white because this is a white liquid. You'll still see some white, but it will dissipate and it will go to a clear. So let's go in. You can see inside the wheel well that it's still showing white, but as I work on the car, it's going to dissipate and it's going to just be clear, shiny, and my wheel wells will look perfect. Now let me show you something. If I pull back, that wheel, I bet to 99% of the world, they would think that that wheel was perfect right now. And all I've done is clean it, blown it off, and wiped up any of the big water spots with the microfiber. But I know that it's not. It's only at a level 9 right now. If you go in closer, you can see that it's not perfect. And that's what's kind of funny about detailing is most people don't really have an overly critical eye. So you really could get away with a lot of wiggle room as far as perfection goes. Now, because I'm a perfectionist and I want to, over deliver to my customers, of course that wheel would be unacceptable. I'm going to finish it with some window cleaner. Actually, there's many things you could finish it with. I just choose window cleaner. If it's a silver OE wheel, then I finish it with a synthetic express wax from Meguiar's because I like to put wax on it. Whether you want to wax your chrome or not, or use chrome polish, that's totally up to you. I have not done any chrome polishing on these wheels, and I've probably have had them not as long as the vehicle itself. but I would say 4.5, 5 years. And all I've ever used is either wiped it up with a microfiber or used the wheel brightener, and these chrome wheels look as good as day one. Now if you look inside the wheel well, you'll notice already that dressing is starting to dissipate and go into just a clear, shiny finish. And that's what we're looking for, and it will happen automatically. Now, because of my wheel well, or I'm sorry, my wheel well lip, this is what I call the lip area, on this Denali is pretty extensive. Now, it's like, do I want, of course I want wax out here, but do I want wax out here or do I want dressing out here? Well, what I prefer is that I just wipe the excess dressing off with some form of microfiber, because dirt will stick to the dressing better than a dry surface. So I wipe this clean and it looks perfect now. Now I can wax this. I can either dust it with the duster and then wax it, or I can wipe it with a microfiber and then wax it. At this point, because this is now dry, I'm going to finish it with some window cleaner, and then I'm going to simply dress my sidewall with some hyper dressing used straight. I do not cut it down with water at all. It's a water-based dressing. That's what I recommend. If you haven't seen my comprehensive video on tire dressing, you need to watch that. It's very comprehensive. You can see more and more that the wheel well dressing is dissipating and it's just going clear. Okay, so I'm not gonna go through all the different steps. I've shown you first the paint. I kind of went it in the improper order because I know most of you are more concerned with the paint, but one thing leads to another. It's like, well, oh wait, Darren, you showed me how to do the car without water. What about the wheels and tires? Well, that's kind of the exception to the rule. I literally have not gotten this car wet as far as traditional washing methods, as I said, since I color sanded it and polished it, which is, what did I say, like going on almost 6 years. Next month I think will be 6 years. And it still looks amazing. You know, that's what's so cool about the Ultimate Quick Wax by Meguiar's down there, is it just does a fabulous job. Is this car show quality? No, it's not. But I guarantee for 99.9% of the world, they would think that it was. Because at this level of perfection, most people don't even have a trained eye to discern the difference. They don't know that when you look at paint, you should literally see nothing. It should be like a mirror. There should be no slight spider webbing, no scratching, no nothing. It should literally just be color, and it should be flat, but the only way you're going to get it flat is through sanding it flat. So this Denali stays at a level what I would call a 9.5 every time I take it out of the garage and do it. And I can do this whole Denali in probably 40 minutes. Anywhere, let's put it this way, I can do the whole thing in 35 minutes if I do it completely dry, and just under an hour if I'm going to break out the hose and do all the wheel wells with water, have to blow it off. I can do the whole thing in an hour, and I guarantee people would think I spent the entire day detailing it. So to me, talk about a win, talk about cutting to the chase, talk about the right side of the 80-20 rule. I'm putting in 20% effort and I'm getting 80% results. Okay, so who did I say? Chris Garcia and Tim Buddy from Mississippi. Hope you've learned something. This is what I do both personally and professionally.